The Nexus station hung in the darkness between three star systems like a jewel made of light and metal. It was the largest diplomatic hub in the known galaxy, home to ambassadors from 47 different species. Here, wars were prevented with words. Treaties were signed. Enemies became trading partners. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had worked on the station for 11 years. She was 63 years old. With gray hair she refused to die and a face lined with the marks of difficult negotiations. She had helped end 2 regional conflicts and had written the framework for human integration into the Galactic Compact. She was known for her patience, her calm voice, and her ability to find common ground between species that had hated each other for centuries. On the morning everything changed. She was sitting in a trade meeting with representatives from 6 different worlds. They were discussing shipping routes through the outer territories. It was boring work, but necessary. Her assistant, a young man named David Chen, entered the room quietly. He walked to her chair and bent down to whisper in her ear. The other ambassadors watched with mild curiosity. Elena's face did not change. She nodded once. David left. "My apologies," Elena said to the room. "I must attend to an urgent matter. We can continue tomorrow." The Lorathi ambassador, an ancient being who resembled a walking tree covered in soft moss, watched her leave with something like concern in his deep-set eyes. In her private office, Elena read the report 3 times. A human colonial transport, the Morning Star, had experienced engine failure near the border of Velthari space. The Velthari had responded to their distress call. This was good. The Velthari were new members of the Compact, an insectoid species with 6 limbs and hard shells the color of dried blood. They were known for aggressive expansion, but they had agreed to follow Compact rules. The problem was what happened next. The Velthari had separated the 47 children on the ship from their parents. They had placed the children in what the report called containment cells designed for dangerous fauna. Cages. They had put human children in cages. The parents had protested. The Velthari had explained, through translators, that this was standard procedure for unknown species. The children would be studied, evaluated, and returned once they were confirmed safe. Elena set down the report. She looked at the wall of her office, where she kept photographs of her own children and grandchildren. Then she picked up her communication device and called an emergency meeting of the Compact Council. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seats arranged in rising tiers. Each species had its own section, designed to accommodate their physical needs. The Velthari section featured heat lamps and hard surfaces for their shells. The Lorathi section had soil beds and moisture systems. The human section had simple chairs. Elena stood at the central podium and presented the facts without emotion. When she finished, she waited. The Velthari ambassador rose. His name was Coordinator Vrex, and he was tall even for his species, with mandibles that clicked when he spoke. His translator device turned his clicks and chirps into flat, mechanical words. "The human ambassador presents this as if we have committed some offense," Vrex said. "We rescued their damaged vessel. We provided food, water, and medical attention. The juveniles were separated for their own protection and for ours. This is standard protocol. We do not understand the concern. The children are in cages," Elena said. "Containment units," Vrex corrected. "Clean. Temperature controlled. The juveniles are healthy. They are frightened." Vrex made a gesture that his species used to indicate confusion. "They are young. Young creatures are often frightened. This passes." Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked, "Are any of them crying?" Vrex consulted with an aide through a private channel. After a moment, he answered, "Several are producing fluid from their eyes. Yes, we have determined this is not a medical emergency. It appears to be an emotional response." "It is," Elena said. "Human children cry when they are scared, when they are separated from their parents, when they feel alone and helpless. This is inefficient," Vrex observed. "Velthari young are independent from hatching. They do not require such constant attention. Human children do." Vrex clicked his mandibles. "Then human children are weak. This is not our concern. We will process them according to protocol and return them when our evaluation is complete. This will take approximately 30 cycles. 30 cycles. Almost 40 standard days." Elena felt something cold settle in her chest. It was not anger, exactly. It was something older and deeper. I formally request the immediate release of the children, she said. This is not a negotiation point. This is a requirement. Vrex stiffened. Among his people, such direct demands were considered insults. You are in no position to make requirements. Humanity is a minor species. You have been spacefaring for barely 3 of your centuries. The Velthari Dominion controlled 100 worlds when your ancestors were still living in caves. That may be true, Elena said. But those are our children, and they will be returned. In 30 cycles. Elena nodded slowly. She gathered her documents. She looked around the chamber at the other ambassadors, most of whom were watching with careful attention. Very well, she said. I will inform my government of your decision. She left the chamber. Within 1 hour, every human on Nexus Station began packing their belongings. There was no announcement, no explanation. Humans simply began moving their possessions onto their ships. They worked quietly, efficiently, and without apparent urgency. The other species noticed. The Kreth ambassador, a being that resembled a floating cloud of luminous gas, approached a human diplomat in the corridor. What is happening? He asked. We're leaving, the diplomat said simply. All of you? Why? The diplomat looked at him with an expression the Kreth did not fully understand. Because of the children, but they will be returned, the Velthari said. Yes, the diplomat agreed. They did say that. He continued packing. By the end of the day, the human section of Nexus Station was empty. Their ships departed in a quiet procession, leaving behind only Ambassador Vasquez and a small staff. She remained at her post, attending meetings, responding to messages, behaving as if nothing had happened. But the other ambassadors watched her differently now. They noticed that she no longer smiled. They noticed that her patience, once legendary, had become something harder, like ice over deep water. The Lorathi ambassador, oldest of all the compact members, requested a private meeting with Coordinator Vrex. They met in a neutral chamber, just the 2 of them. You must release the children, the Lorathi said. His voice was like wind through ancient branches. Vrex's mandibles clicked with irritation. Not you as well. Why does everyone care so much about a few human juveniles? They are primitives, soft, short-lived, weak. They are not weak. I have seen their physical specifications. They cannot survive in hard vacuum. They require constant temperature regulation. They die from falls that would not scratch a Velthari shell. They are, I have lived for 9,000 of your cycles, the Lorathi interrupted. I have watched species rise and fall. I have seen empires crumble to dust. And I am telling you now, with all the weight of that experience, release the children. Vrex was silent for a moment. You speak as if we have made a terrible mistake. You have. These are primitives. They have been spacefaring for only, yes, 3 centuries. Do you know what they did in that time? The Lorathi leaned closer, his mossy form rustling. They united their entire species. They ended wars that had lasted thousands of years. They rebuilt their planet after nearly destroying it. And then they came to the stars. So they are efficient. This does not. They did not do this because they are peaceful by nature, the Lorathi said. They did this because they are terrifying by nature. They looked at themselves, at what they were capable of, and they chose to become something else. Do you understand? They chose peace, which means they remember war. Vrex was quiet. I have spoken with humans for 200 years, the Lorathi continued. I have studied their history, their literature, their songs, and I have learned one thing above all else. They have a line. Cross it, and the calculations of diplomacy, the careful weighing of costs and benefits, all of it stops. It simply stops. What line? The Lorathi's voice dropped low. Their children. You have caged human children. You have made them cry. And somewhere, right now, their parents are crying too. And their grandparents. And their aunts and uncles and friends and neighbors. Millions of humans, across dozens of worlds, are learning what you have done. Let them learn. What can they do? We have a fleet that, send a message to your homeworld, the Lorathi said. Ask them to access the old compact records, the classified ones, the ones about humanity's first century of space travel. Then we will speak again. He rose and left the chamber. Vrex remained seated for a long time. Finally, He sent the request to his government. The response came 12 hours later. It was a single video file, classified at the highest level. Vrex watched it alone in his quarters. When it finished, he watched it again. Then he sat in the darkness for a very long time, and for the first time in his life, he felt something that might have been fear. In her quarters on Nexus Station, Elena Vasquez received a communication from Earth. She read it once, then closed her eyes. When she opened them, she began composing a message to the other human ambassadors scattered across the compact. It was short. It contained only a date and a set of coordinates. The message ended with 3 words. "They're coming home." The stars did not change. The station continued its slow rotation. But somewhere in the vast darkness between worlds, something had begun to move. The message spread through the elder species of the Galactic Compact like ripples in still water. Within 48 hours, 17 different ambassadors had contacted the Velthari government through back channels. All of them carried the same request: release the human children immediately. The Velthari were confused. In the Great Council chamber of their homeworld, the High Council gathered to discuss this strange situation. They were the rulers of 112 worlds, commanders of fleets that had conquered entire sectors. They had never faced a crisis quite like this one. "I do not understand," said Counselor Threx, the eldest of them. Her shell was faded with age, but her mind remained sharp. "Why do the elder species concern themselves with 47 juvenile primitives? The Lorathi have classified humans as a species of concern," reported Military Coordinator Varn. "But their military capabilities are minimal. They have no more than 200 combat-capable vessels. Our fleet numbers in the thousands. Then why the warnings?" No one had an answer. On Nexus Station, a different kind of meeting was taking place. The Kreth ambassador had gathered several younger diplomats from various species to discuss what was happening. They met in a private lounge, speaking in hushed voices. "I do not understand human behavior," said a Neth diplomat, a small furry creature with large eyes. "They are leaving the station. All of them. Is this some kind of surrender?" "No," said the Kreth, his gaseous form pulsing with colors that indicated concern. "This is preparation." "For what?" The Kreth hesitated. "I have been studying humans for 60 years. They are a fascinating species. Contradictory in many ways. They are capable of great kindness. They build hospitals for strangers. They adopt orphan children from other cultures, even other species now. They send aid to worlds they have never visited." "This does not sound threatening," the Neth said. "That is because I have not finished. They are also capable of great violence. In their history, they have committed acts so terrible that they have classified some records, sealed them away so that future generations cannot easily access them. They are ashamed of what they were. They changed. About 4 centuries ago, they came very close to destroying themselves. Nuclear weapons, environmental collapse. They stood at the edge of extinction and they looked into the darkness." The Kreth paused, and then they stepped back. They chose to become something else. Peaceful, cooperative, united. This seems like a good thing. It is. But here is what you must understand. They did not become peaceful because they lost the ability to be violent. They became peaceful because they chose to lock that part of themselves away. They built systems to contain it. Laws, traditions, a culture that values restraint above all else. The Neth's large eyes blinked. "And the children? Children are the key to all of it. Humans believe that each new generation is a chance to be better. They protect their young with an intensity that other species find difficult to understand. It is not logical. It is not rational. It is something deeper. Something that bypasses all their careful control. You are saying that the Velthari have made a mistake. I am saying that the Velthari have unlocked a door that humanity spent centuries trying to close." Far from Nexus Station, in the cold space between stars, 17 human battle groups changed course. They did not announce their new destination. They simply turned and began moving toward Velthari space. Each battle group consisted of 12 warships. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers. They were not the largest ships in the galaxy, but they were fast and well-armed. More importantly, they were crewed by volunteers. Every single person on those ships had requested this assignment. On the command ship of the Third Fleet, Admiral Chen Wei studied the navigation display. He was 72 years old, a veteran of 3 conflicts and countless peacekeeping operations. He had spent most of his career trying to prevent wars. Now he was preparing for one. His communications officer approached. "Sir, Earth Command is asking for confirmation of our course." "Confirmed." We proceed to the staging coordinates. "Sir, the Velthari have not made any hostile moves. They claim the children are being held for evaluation, not as prisoners." Admiral Chen turned to look at the young officer. "How old are your children, Lieutenant?" The officer blinked. 5 and 7, sir. Imagine someone took them from you, put them in cages, told you they would give them back in 40 days, maybe. If everything checked out, would you care about the technical difference between held for evaluation and imprisoned? The officer was silent. "Neither do I," Chen said. "Neither do any of us. Confirm our course." On the Velthari detention facility, a young guard named Kirath was having a very strange day. She had been assigned to monitor the human juveniles as part of her standard duties. It should have been simple. Watch the containment units, record any unusual behavior, report to her superiors. But the humans were not behaving as expected. At first, they had cried. This was normal, she supposed. Young creatures separated from their parents often showed distress. But then, something changed. The older juveniles began caring for the younger ones. They held them, sang to them, told them stories. Kirith found herself standing outside the containment area, watching through the transparent barrier. One of the older humans, a female with dark hair, was teaching the younger ones a game. They sat in a circle, clapping their hands in patterns, laughing when someone made a mistake. They were laughing. In cages, far from their parents. This was not what Kirath had expected. She noticed that they were not eating much. The food provided was nutritionally appropriate, according to the human specifications. But they picked at it without interest. Kirath checked the records. Human juveniles, she learned, often refused food when emotionally distressed. This could lead to serious health problems. In extreme cases, human children could become so upset that their bodies simply stopped functioning properly. They could die from sadness. This information disturbed Kirith in ways she did not fully understand. That night, she returned to the containment area with a small package. She was not sure why. She entered the outer chamber and approached the barrier. The dark-haired girl noticed her. She stood slowly, watching Kirath with wary eyes. "I brought something," Kirith said. Her translator converted her words into human speech. "Food. Different food. I thought perhaps you might like it." The girl studied her for a long moment. Then she came closer to the barrier. "What is your name?" The question surprised Kirath. Velthari did not typically exchange names with lower species. But something about the girl's direct gaze made her answer. "Kirath, I'm Maya." The girl tilted her head. "Why are you being nice to us?" Kirath did not know how to answer that question. "I do not want you to be hungry," she said finally. Maya looked at the package, then back at Kirath. "My little brother won't stop crying. He's 4. He doesn't understand why Mommy and Daddy aren't here. I am sorry." The words felt strange in Kirath's mouth. Velthari did not apologize to primitives. "Can you bring him a blanket? He likes soft things. It helps him sleep." Kirath hesitated. This was against protocol, but she found herself nodding. "I will try." Maya smiled. It was a small smile, tired and sad, but real. "Thank you, Kirath." That night, Kirath lay in her sleeping chamber and thought about what she had done. She had broken protocol. She had treated the primitives as if they were people. She had let a juvenile human thank her by name, and she had felt something when the girl smiled. Something warm and unfamiliar. She did not sleep well. The next morning, she brought the blanket. On the Velthari homeworld, Coordinator Vrex had finally accessed the classified records the Lorathi had mentioned. He had watched the footage 3 times now, and each time it affected him differently. The video was 200 years old. It showed a human colony on a world called Kepler-7. The colony had been attacked by raiders from a species that no longer existed. They had wanted the colony's resources and did not care about the inhabitants. The humans had 800 soldiers. The raiders had 12,000. The siege lasted 6 months. The footage showed humans fighting in conditions that should have killed them. Fighting with broken bones. Fighting while bleeding. Fighting even when they knew they could not win. They held the line while civilian transports escaped with the colonists. When the last transport cleared the atmosphere, only 47 human soldiers remained alive. They were offered surrender by the raiders. They refused. The final recording showed them standing in the ruins of their base, weapons raised, facing an army that would certainly destroy them. They were singing an old human song about not giving up, about standing together until the end. Then the recording stopped. Vrex had checked the historical records. The raiders had won that battle, but they had paid for it. The humans had made them pay for every meter of ground. And 3 years later, humanity had tracked down the raider species and systematically destroyed their entire civilization. Not for territory, not for resources, for revenge. Vrex thought about the 47 children in his detention facility. He thought about the 17 battle groups moving toward his space. He thought about a species that would sing while dying, then spend 3 years hunting down their killers. He began composing a message to the High Council. His people needed to understand what they were facing, but as he wrote, he realized something else. The humans had not attacked yet. They had not issued threats or demands. Their fleet was simply coming, waiting. They were giving the Velthari a chance to make the right choice. This, somehow, was more frightening than anything else. In the cold space at the edge of Veltari territory, 200 human warships dropped out of hyperspace. They arranged themselves in a perfect formation, weapons powered down, running lights bright. They did not advance. They did not communicate. They simply waited. And across the galaxy, every species with a communication system watched and wondered what would happen next. The Galactic Compact held an emergency session. Every species sent their highest-ranking ambassador. The council chamber was filled to capacity for the first time in decades. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the central podium. She wore the same clothes she had worn for 3 days. She had not slept much. None of the humans had. Coordinator Vrex demanded an explanation. You have moved a war fleet to our border. This is an act of aggression. The compact forbids military threats between member species. There has been no threat, Elena said calmly. Our ships have not entered your territory. They have not fired weapons. They have not even sent communications to your government. Their presence is a threat. Their presence is a statement. We are waiting for our children. Vrex's mandibles clicked with frustration. This is unreasonable. We have explained our protocols. The juveniles are being held for standard evaluation. They will be returned in 26 cycles now, yes. You have told us. Elena looked at him with eyes that showed nothing. We are waiting. You cannot simply wait with a fleet on our border. Watch us. The chamber fell silent. Other ambassadors exchanged looks. The humans had always been cooperative, willing to compromise, eager to find peaceful solutions. This was different. This was something none of them had seen before. The Lorathi ambassador rose slowly. His ancient form creaked as he moved. If I may, he said, I would like to share some historical context. With the Council's permission, I will access classified records from the early period of human spaceflight. There were murmurs of agreement. The Lorathi were respected as keepers of history. Their request was granted. The chamber's display systems activated, showing images and video from 2 centuries ago. Humanity's first contact with the Galactic Compact occurred 193 years ago, the Lorathi began. At that time, they had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. They were, as Coordinator Vrex has pointed out, a young species. The display showed early human ships. They were crude by current standards, barely functional for interstellar travel. In those early years, several human colony ships were attacked by raiders, pirates who operated outside compact law. The humans asked us for help. The Lorathi paused. We told them that we could not intervene in regional disputes, that they would need to handle these matters themselves. Elena watched the display without expression. She knew this history. Every human did. The humans said nothing in response. They did not argue. They did not protest. They simply got to work. The display shifted to show shipyard footage, weapons development, training facilities. Within 10 years, they had built a military force capable of deep space operations. Within 15 years, they had tracked down every raider network in 3 sectors. The footage showed human ships engaging pirate fleets. The battles were brutal and one-sided. The humans did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They did not conquer territory. The Lorathi continued. They did not seize resources. They simply destroyed everyone who had harmed their people. And then they stopped. They went back to building colonies, exploring space, trading with their neighbors. Vrex's voice was uncertain. This proves nothing. We are not raiders. We are a member of the Compact. No, but it proves something important about human nature. The Lorathi turned to face him directly. They will endure almost anything for peace. They will negotiate, compromise, forgive, but there is a limit. And when that limit is crossed, they become something else. What limit? The Lorathi looked at Elena. She nodded slightly. Their children, the Lorathi said. Humans have a concept that does not translate perfectly into other languages. They call it family. It is not merely genetic connection. It is something deeper, a bond that they consider sacred above all others. Parents and children, siblings, sometimes even close friends become family. We understand reproduction, Vrex said. We have young as well. Your young are independent from hatching. They do not need their parents. Human children are different. They require years of care, protection, teaching. They form deep emotional bonds, and human adults will do anything to protect those bonds. The display showed something new. Footage from various conflicts throughout human history. Parents shielding children with their bodies during disasters. Soldiers dying to protect evacuating civilians. Average people performing acts of impossible courage when children were threatened. This is not logical behavior, Vrex observed. These individuals died for juveniles who were not even their own offspring. Exactly. Elena spoke for the first time in several minutes. You see that as illogical. We see it as the most important part of what makes us human. The chamber was quiet. The fleet at your border, Elena continued, contains approximately 40,000 personnel. Every single one of them volunteered for this mission. Do you understand? When word spread that children were being held in cages, we had to turn people away. There were not enough ships for everyone who wanted to come. Why? Vrex asked. These are not their children. They are human children. That is enough. Vrex fell silent. The other ambassadors watched, fascinated by this glimpse into human psychology. The Lorathi spoke again. I have studied humans for 2 centuries. I have learned their languages, read their literature, watched their entertainment, and I have found one truth that runs through all of it. They believe that children represent possibility, the chance to be better than the generation before. When you cage a human child, you are not just imprisoning an individual, you are attacking humanity's hope for the future. We did not intend. Intentions do not matter. Impact matters. And right now, millions of humans across dozens of worlds are watching their news feeds. They are seeing footage of their children in your cages. They are seeing their children crying. On the detention facility, Kirith had become something unexpected. The human children had started calling her their friend. She visited them every day now. She brought food, blankets, small toys she had made herself from spare materials. She had learned all their names. The dark-haired girl was Maya, 15 years old, the oldest of the group. The crying boy was Lucas, 4 years old, the youngest. There were 47 of them in total, ranging from toddlers to teenagers. They had taught her their games. The clapping patterns, a ball-tossing game, something called storytelling, where one person began a narrative and others added to it. Kirith found this last activity particularly fascinating. Velthari did not create fiction. Humans, apparently, could not stop. Today, the youngest ones were clustered around her, touching her shell with their small, soft hands. Your shell is so smooth, said a girl named Emma. Does it hurt when you grow? We molt, Kirith explained. The old shell breaks away and a new one hardens. It is uncomfortable, but not painful. Like a snake, said Lucas excitedly. He had stopped crying several days ago, mostly because Kirith brought him a blanket each night and stayed until he fell asleep. I do not know this animal. It's a earth animal. It sheds its skin when it grows. Lucas patted her forearm. You're nice, Kirith. Why are other Velthari not nice? Kirith did not know how to answer. We are not used to creatures like you. Maya approached. Her expression was serious. Kirith, something's changed. The guards are acting differently. Nervous. Kirith hesitated. She had received briefings about the human fleet, but she was not supposed to discuss it with the prisoners. Your people have sent ships, she said finally. Many ships. They are waiting at the edge of our space. Maya's eyes widened. They're coming for us? Yes. How many ships? 200. Maya sat down slowly. Her hands were trembling. That's a lot. My superiors are concerned. They are discussing what to do. What options are they considering? Kirith clicked her mandibles uncomfortably. Some want to release you immediately. Others want to use you as leverage. Bargaining pieces. Maya's expression changed. It became something hard and cold. For a moment, she looked much older than 15 years. Tell your superiors something for me. What? Tell them that humans don't negotiate when children are threatened. Not ever. If they try to use us as bargaining pieces, they will not be bargaining with diplomats. They will be bargaining with parents. And parents don't make deals. They make examples. Kirith stared at her. You are a child yourself. How do you know this? Maya smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because I have parents, and I know what my father would do if someone hurt me. He's a school teacher. He's the gentlest man I know. And I promise you, if someone hurt me, he would find a way to destroy them. That night, Kirith sent an unauthorized transmission to the Velthari High Council. She described what she had witnessed. The children's resilience, their capacity for love and forgiveness, their absolute confidence that their people would come for them. She ended with a warning. I have looked into their eyes. They are not animals. They are not primitives. They are children. And their parents are coming. If we harm them, if we try to use them as leverage, we will not be fighting a war. We will be fighting a crusade. And we will lose. The transmission was flagged and forwarded to Coordinator Vrex. He read it 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting of the High Council. On the human flagship, Admiral Chen received a message from Ambassador Vasquez. The Velthari are meeting tonight. She wrote, their council is divided. Some want to release the children. Others want to fight. We may be running out of time. Chen looked at the navigation display. His fleet had been holding position for 6 days. His crews were ready. They had been ready from the moment they heard about the children. He composed his response. If they choose to fight, how do we proceed? Vasquez's answer came quickly. We do not fire first. We wait until they make a move. If they release the children, we escort them home, and this is over. If they try to harm the children or use them as hostages, she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Chen understood. Every human understood. Some lines could not be crossed. Some actions could not be forgiven. The stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the small creatures who had traveled so far from home. But in the space between those stars, 40,000 humans waited in silence, and on a facility far away, 47 children slept under blankets brought by an alien who was learning what it meant to care. The universe held its breath. The Velthari High Council chamber was built for intimidation. It was vast, with walls of polished stone and seats arranged so that supplicants had to look up at the counselors. For centuries, lesser species had stood in this room and begged for mercy. Tonight, the counselors were not feeling particularly merciful. We cannot surrender to primitive threats, said Military Commander Krath. He was the largest Velthari in the chamber, his shell scarred from dozens of battles. If we release these juveniles simply because humans have assembled a fleet, we show weakness. Every species in the compact will see us as cowards. We do not surrender, Counselor Threx replied. We would be correcting a mistake. What mistake? We followed protocol. The humans are the ones acting irrationally. Are they? Coordinator Vrex had been quiet through most of the debate. Now he stood, and the chamber fell silent. I have spent the past 6 days studying humanity, their history, their psychology, their military capabilities. I have come to several conclusions. Share them, Threx said. Vrex activated the chamber's display system. Numbers and diagrams appeared, showing fleet compositions, weapon specifications, tactical analyses. First, the military assessment. If we engage the human fleet with our full strength, we will win. We outnumber them significantly. We have more ships, more weapons, more experience in large-scale combat. He paused. We would lose approximately 40% of our forces. Krath made a dismissive gesture. Acceptable losses for victory. I am not finished. That analysis assumes a conventional engagement. Humans do not fight conventional engagements. Vrex changed the display. This is footage from the siege of Kepler-7. 800 human soldiers against 12,000 raiders. The siege lasted 6 months. When it ended, the raider force had suffered 83% casualties. Impressive, but irrelevant. We are not raiders. No, we are organized, disciplined, professional. Vrex, let that sink in. The raiders were professionals too. They had conquered dozens of worlds before Kepler-7. They were destroyed as a species within 3 years of that battle. The humans hunted them to extinction. The chamber was very quiet now. My second conclusion, Vrex continued, concerns human psychology. I have consulted with experts from the Lorathi, the Kreth, and several other elder species. All of them agree on one point. Humans are fundamentally irrational when it comes to their young. This we know. They are primitives. No, listen to me. Vrex's voice was harder now. They are not irrational because they are stupid. They are irrational because they choose to be. Their entire civilization is built on the principle that some things matter more than logic, more than survival, more than winning. Krath clicked his mandibles impatiently. Then they are fools. They conquered a planet. They survived nuclear weapons. They united a species that had spent its entire existence fighting itself. They built a civilization that spans 50 worlds in 3 centuries. Vrex turned to face him directly. Do not underestimate them because they value different things than we do. What are you suggesting? That we simply give in to their demands? I am suggesting that we think carefully about what we want to happen next. Vrex deactivated the display. If we release the children, we look weak in the short term, but we demonstrate wisdom. We show that we can recognize a mistake and correct it. The elder species will respect this, and if we do not release them, then we fight. And perhaps we win. But the humans will not stop. They will rebuild. They will remember. They will teach their children what we did, and their children's children, and their children's children's children. We will have made enemies who will hunt us for generations. Krath was silent. Threx spoke up. There is another consideration. The guard who has been caring for the juveniles. Kirith. She sent a transmission. I read it. Vrex said. She has spent more time with these children than any of us. She says they have already forgiven us. Forgiven us for putting them in cages. She says they worry about her. Impossible. Why would they worry about their captor? Because that is what humans do. They form bonds. They care for others even when it costs them nothing. Even when it makes no sense. Vrex let out a long breath. These are not animals we have captured. These are people. Young people. Yes. Helpless. Yes. But people nonetheless. The debate continued for hours. Arguments were made on both sides. Some counselors wanted war. Others wanted peace. The chamber was divided almost evenly. Finally, Coordinator Vrex requested permission to contact the human ambassador directly. The council agreed, with the understanding that no commitments would be made. Ambassador Vasquez appeared on the display. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were steady. Coordinator Vrex, she said, I assume you have reached a decision. Not yet. The council is divided. I have requested this conversation to ask you a question. Ask. Vrex hesitated. This was not a question he had ever thought he would need to ask. Why do humans value children so highly? Your species reproduces easily. Your young are fragile and dependent for many years. From a purely rational perspective, individual children are replaceable. Elena's expression did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. Something cold and deep. Let me tell you about my granddaughter, she said. Her name is Sophia. She is 8 years old. She likes butterflies and mathematics and a food called pancakes. She has a laugh that sounds like bells ringing. She still believes that the universe is fundamentally good, that people are kind, that bad things happen by accident rather than design. I do not understand the relevance. She is not replaceable. There is no other Sophia. There will never be another Sophia. If something happened to her, I would not simply produce another child and forget. I would carry that wound for the rest of my life. Every human would understand. Every human has a Sophia. Vrex was silent. You asked why we value children so highly. This is why. They have not yet learned to be cruel. They have not yet been broken by the universe. They still believe in kindness and fairness and love. We protect that. We protect it with everything we have, because that innocence is the most precious thing we possess. Even unto war, Coordinator Vrex. If your people harm those children, we will not simply go to war. We will unmake your civilization, not because we want to, not because we enjoy violence, but because allowing you to hurt our children and escape consequences would teach every species in the galaxy that human children are acceptable targets. You would destroy us to send a message. We would destroy you to protect the next generation of children, and the one after that, and the one after that. We play the long game, Coordinator. We think in generations. Vrex stood very still. And if we release them? Elena's expression softened slightly. Then this is over. We will take our children home. We will remember what you did. Yes, but we will also remember that you chose to correct your mistake. That counts for something. Some of my people want to fight. Some of mine do too. But neither of us has to be ruled by our worst impulses. She leaned closer to the camera. You have a choice, Coordinator. You can be the species that hurt human children. Or, you can be the species that recognized its mistake and made it right. One of those choices leads to war without end. The other leads to the possibility of something better. Vrex terminated the connection. He returned to face the council. Military Commander Krath was still arguing for war. Several others supported him. But more counselors had fallen silent, thinking about what they had heard. I will not order this war, Vrex said finally. I will not be remembered as the one who made humanity our eternal enemy. Krath stood. Then you are a coward. The military will not. The military will do as it is ordered. Vrex's voice was hard. I have commanded armies. I have burned worlds. I have done terrible things in the service of our people. But I will not do this. I will not be the one who teaches those children that adults cannot be trusted. He removed his rank insignia and placed it on the table. If the council wishes to go to war, you will need to find a new coordinator. But I urge you to think carefully. We are not fighting soldiers. We are not fighting territory. We are fighting parents. And parents do not stop, ever. The chamber was silent. Counselor Threx rose slowly. She walked to where Vrex stood and picked up his insignia. She pressed it back into his hand. Keep this, she said. You have earned it tonight more than ever before. She turned to face the council. I move that we release the children immediately. I move that we transport them ourselves, as a gesture of genuine apology. I move that we begin drafting formal communications to each family, acknowledging our error. The vote was close, but it passed. Several hours later, a single message was transmitted to the human fleet. We will bring them home ourselves. Admiral Chen read the message 3 times. Then he forwarded it to Earth Command and to every ship in the fleet. The response was a sound he had never heard before. 40,000 people cheering simultaneously across 200 ships. The war that never was had ended. But for some, the story was just beginning. The Velthari transport ship moved through space alone. It carried no weapons and no escort. Its shields were down and its running lights were bright. Anyone who looked at it would know immediately that it was completely vulnerable. This was intentional. Among the Velthari, the greatest form of apology was to place oneself at the mercy of those you had wronged. By sending the children home in an undefended ship, the High Council was saying something that their language did not have words for. We trust you with our lives, because we understand now what we risked. Kireth stood at the center of the passenger compartment, surrounded by 47 human children. She had volunteered for this mission. No one had been surprised. The children were excited and terrified in equal measure. The older ones tried to stay calm for the younger ones. Maya moved through the group, checking on everyone, making sure the little ones were comfortable. How much longer? Asked Lucas. He was holding Kirith's hand, something that had become normal over the past 2 weeks. Several hours, Kirith said. Your people are waiting at the edge of our territory. Will they shoot at us? No. We sent them a message. They know we are bringing you home. Lucas nodded seriously. Good. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Kirith looked down at him. 4 years old. He had been held in a cage for almost 3 weeks, separated from his parents, crying himself to sleep every night. And his concern was that no one should get hurt. She did not understand humans. She was beginning to think she never would. Maya approached and sat down next to her. "You're scared," the girl observed. "Yes. Why?" Kirith clicked her mandibles softly. "I am about to meet the people whose children I helped imprison. I do not know what they will do. They won't hurt you. You took care of us. I also kept you in cages. You didn't put us there. You just worked there. And when you could help, you did." Maya touched Kirith's arm gently. "That's what matters. Your people may not see it that way. Some might not," Maya admitted. "But most will. Humans are pretty good at telling the difference between enemies and people who made mistakes." The ship traveled on through the darkness between stars. When they finally arrived at the rendezvous point, Kirith looked out the observation window and felt her heart stop. 200 human warships hung in formation before them. They were massive, bristling with weapons, their hulls marked with symbols she could not read. Any one of them could have destroyed her transport with a single shot. None of them moved. Instead, a small shuttle detached from the nearest warship and approached. The transport's communication system crackled to life. "Velthari Transport. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the Human Third Fleet. We are preparing to receive our children. Please stand by for docking." Kirath activated her communicator with trembling hands. "Admiral, this is Guard Kirath of the Velthari Dominion. The children are safe and healthy. I will personally escort them to the transfer point." "Understood, Kirath. Thank you." That was all. No threats, no demands, just gratitude. The shuttle docked with the transport. The airlock opened. And then the children were running. Parents flooded through the connection, crying out names, reaching for their children. The passenger compartment became chaos. Wonderful, beautiful chaos. Children were swept up into arms. Faces were covered with kisses. Tears flowed freely. Kirath stood very still, watching. A woman approached her. She was holding Lucas, who had buried his face in her shoulder and was sobbing with relief. The woman's eyes were red from crying. "You're Kirith?" she asked. "Yes. Lucas told me about you. He said you brought him blankets. Stayed with him until he fell asleep." Yes, I did." The woman reached out and touched Kirath's arm. "Thank you. Thank you for taking care of my baby." Kirath did not know what to say. She had expected anger, accusations, perhaps violence. Not this. "I am sorry," she managed. "I am sorry we took him from you. You didn't take him. You found him already taken and you helped him." The woman wiped her eyes. "That's different." More parents approached her. More thanks. More tears. One father, a large man with hands like clubs, simply wrapped his arms around her in what she later learned was called a hug. He did not say anything. He did not need to. Maya was one of the last to leave. She had found her parents near the airlock and was holding both their hands tightly, as if afraid they might disappear. But she pulled away from them for a moment to come back to Kirith. "I told them about you," she said. "About how you helped us, how you learned our games, how you stayed with the little ones when they were scared." Kirith clicked her mandibles. "I only did what was right. That's the hardest thing to do sometimes." Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I made this for you, so you won't forget us." Kirith unfolded the paper. It was a drawing, done in the crude style of human children's art. It showed a tall figure with 6 limbs, standing next to a smaller figure with 2. They were holding hands. Above them were stars, and below them was a single word: friends. Kirith stared at it for a long time. "I will not forget," she said finally. "I could never forget." Maya hugged her another embrace. Another gesture Kirith was learning to understand, and then she was gone, walking with her parents toward the shuttle that would take her home. Admiral Chen Wei stood at the airlock, watching the last of the families depart. When the compartment was nearly empty, he approached Kirith. "Guard Kirith," he said. "I've read the reports. I know what you did for those children. I did what anyone would have done." "No. You did what a good person would have done. That's different." He extended his hand, palm up. Kirith had learned this was a human greeting of respect. She placed her hand against his. "Tell your leaders something for me," Chen said. "Tell them that this could have ended very differently. Tell them that we came here prepared to fight, but we came prepared for something else too." "What else?" "To forgive. If they gave us the chance." He released her hand. "They gave us that chance. We won't forget it." The return journey to Velthari space was quiet. Kirith had the passenger compartment to herself now, filled with discarded blankets and forgotten toys. Evidence that children had been there. Evidence that she had mattered. When she arrived home, she found that she had become famous. The transmission she had sent to the High Council had been leaked. Every Velthari knew about the guard who had cared for the human children, who had warned her people about the danger of cruelty. She was reassigned from detention work. They made her a cultural attaché instead, tasked with helping her people understand humanity. It was good work, important work. But she found herself missing the chaos of the detention center, the sound of children laughing, the weight of small hands holding hers. 1 year later, she was assigned to the Velthari embassy on Earth. Her office had a window that looked out over a human city. She decorated it simply. A few Velthari artifacts, a plant from her homeworld, and one drawing, framed in simple wood, hanging where she could see it from her desk. The drawing showed two figures holding hands under a sky full of stars. Friends. She received many visitors in her new role. Diplomats, researchers, curious humans who wanted to meet the famous Kirath. She welcomed them all, answered their questions, tried to build bridges between two very different peoples, but her favorite visitors were the children. They came sometimes with their parents, sometimes with school groups. They asked endless questions about her shell, her mandibles, her homeworld. They showed her drawings and told her stories and asked if they could touch her forearms. She always said yes. One day, 3 years after the incident, a young woman arrived at her office. Kirath did not recognize her at first. She had grown taller. Her face had changed. She moved with the confidence of adulthood rather than the uncertainty of youth. But her eyes were the same. Maya, Kirath said, rising from her desk. Hi, Kirath. Maya was smiling, the same smile she had worn in the detention center when she was trying to keep the younger children calm. I'm in the area for university. I thought I'd visit. They talked for hours. About Maya's studies, she was learning xenobiology, hoping to help different species understand each other. About Kirath's work building cultural connections. About the other children, most of whom were doing well. Lucas, Kirath learned, wanted to be a pilot. He had told his mother that when he grew up, he was going to fly rescue ships, so that no children would ever have to be scared in space again. When Maya finally left, Kirath sat alone in her office for a long time. She looked at the drawing on her wall, faded now with age but still clear. Friends. She had learned many things about humans in the years since the incident. She had learned about their history, their culture, their strange and beautiful customs. But the most important thing she had learned was this. Humans were not defined by their capacity for violence. They were defined by their capacity for love. They could destroy civilizations when threatened. They could hunt their enemies across generations. But they would rather build. They would rather forgive. They would rather make friends of former enemies and teach their children to see the universe as full of possibility rather than threat. This was humanity's great gift. Not their technology or their determination or their terrifying patience, but their stubborn, irrational, magnificent ability to love, and they had shared it with her. The Velthari had a new saying now, taught in their academies and whispered in their halls. Count a species' ships to know their strength. Count what they protect to know their soul. Kirath looked out her window at the human city, full of humans going about their lives, loving each other, protecting each other, building futures they might never see. She thought about 47 frightened children in cages and about what their people had been willing to do to bring them home. Then she turned back to her work, and she smiled, and she felt, for the first time in her life, that she truly understood what it meant to be human, even if she never would be one herself. Some gifts could be shared across any distance. Some bonds could survive any difference. And some friends, once made, lasted forever.